Death has taken our beloved Beverly. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there's lamentation, in their tears there's loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Beverly's love that united us in life, in which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continue through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks. Those who wish may join me in the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I've known Earl for a long time, and I was looking through the Psalms. I found one from Ecclesiastics that we'll probably remember from the old days, because they made it into a song. For everything there's a season, a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to discard. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. As I met with Earl and Julie the other day, we talked about Bev, and I asked Julie if she would share some thoughts with me about her aunt. And I've known Earl's feelings for a long time towards his whole family, not just his one sister, Bev. And Julie said to me, you know what, my brother Bruce is going to send you something. Bruce did. Bruce sent me a beautiful writing. I could sit and try to compose a eulogy about your sister, your aunt, your friend. But I don't think I could do it as well as what Bruce wrote.
Excuse me. I'm going to interrupt you because I know how my different. I don't want to follow you, but I have a few words I'd like to say. Because I don't follow me, so I don't look at it.
You want to talk first?
Yeah.
Come on up here.
Bruce is very good at such things,
Go ahead.
and I am not well practiced. I searched my soul thinking about what to say over my sister's grave. And these brief 2 pages are what I think describes my relationship with her and part of her life that not everybody knows everything about. My sister Beverly, a love story. She led a life few others would have been brave enough to choose, and she paid a heavy price for that. In the 50s in America, she chose to marry Clarence Williams, a black man. In today's world, interracial marriage is a common occurrence. Not so in the 50s. In order to live the life she wanted, she felt the need to leave family and friends to live in Chicago with Clarence. I was only 8 when she left and was considered too young to face the harsh reality. So, when I was 16 and I expressed my sadness about Bev being alone away from home, my sister Ellie revealed the truth, and I was elated to hear that my big sister was happily married, but disappointed it took so long for me to find out. Soon afterward, I met Clarence. What a delight he was. A strapping, handsome man with a smile that could light up a room. He and Bev lived a happy existence together on Chicago's South Side for 40 years, 1952 to 1992. The year 1992 is significant because they retired and moved to Orlando 1 year after I moved to Chicago in 1991. We had 1 year together in Chicago and it was great. I got to know Clarence a lot better. What a guy. They had a timeshare in Wisconsin and I managed 2 trips up there with them. We had a lot of fun. He worked as a cement mason and was a great provider. Bev worked in the furniture mart and was able to get lots of great deals on all sorts of things, which made her a happy camper. One Saturday morning, Clarence and I went on a side job to put some steps in for a neighbor. I wheelbarrowed the mud and Clarence finished until I dumped a load and made a big mess. I feared his wrath, but he just smiled and said, "These things happen." We all went out to eat and laughed about my wheelbarrow incident. I learned why my big sister left me for Clarence, and I know she made the right choice.
You'll see some similarities in a moment, or you'll hear some similarities. This is what Bruce wrote. When I think about Beverly, my Aunt Bev, I can't help but summarize her as a woman of substance. She was always informed, opinionated, present, and put together. Absolutely together. She was an anachronism, not in a bad way. She just harkened back to a different time when people lived by a core set of principles that focused on family, hard work, and respect. And she reminded us all the time, that what was important was not what you had, but who you were, how you presented yourself, and whether you were worthy of that respect, how hard you worked, and how strongly you held on to your beliefs. She lived in her life in that context and set a strong example for all of us of a life well lived. But as I was thinking about whether there was one word that could sum up Aunt Bevy, the word that kept coming to my mind was devotion. It just stuck in my mind, so I looked up the definition, and I think it fits well. Love, loyalty, or enthusiasm for a person, activity, or cause. First and foremost, she was devoted to her love of her life, Clarence. Imagine, really think hard about it. A young white Jewish woman in the 1950s falling in love with a black man from the South and giving up everything for love. Leaving her home, her family, everything normal and comfortable to be with the man she loved. With no regrets for nearly 60 years, Clarence and she made a life, a very good life. for themselves in the most difficult of circumstances, and she loved him and missed him terribly until the day she died. She was devoted to her parents. She was humorous as she told the stories of how, despite the fact that she was in Chicago, in a time when transportation was not as simple as it is today, her mother would call and say, "You have to be in Cleveland for Mother's Day," or "You have to be in for Cleveland for this birthday or this celebration." And she came, despite the fact that it was not terribly convenient, and she had to travel without her husband because no one could know. If her parents wanted her to be somewhere or do something, she would fulfill their wishes. She was devoted to her little sister Ellie and her baby brother Earl. That was her words, not Bruce's. Bevy and Ellie spoke regularly, long distance, in the days before cell phones, when long distance cost a lot. And were always together when Bevy was in town. Earl and Bevy were 15 years apart, but had a strong bond, and thankfully were able to spend the last few years together in the same city. She was devoted to her two nieces and nephews, Andrea, Julie, and me. She never missed a birthday or a special occasion for her servant children. She was as tough on us as any parent, but was also great counsel in a way that a parent could not be, and we valued her insights greatly. She was devoted to her network, her family, and her friends. She was definitely a social person, but more importantly, she built strong, lasting connections with people. Once you were in Beverly's network, you were part of her. You became part of her. She absolutely loved her aunts, uncles, her 1 million cousins, but always treated her family and friends as one. She cherished personal bonds, and no matter how distant you may have been, the monthly or weekly or daily calls were going to happen. And what was unique about Bevy's calls is that they were about you, how you were, what was going on, and how she could help. She was devoted to her work. Bevy was a career woman in the days when career women were very rare. And she worked in a world dominated by men in a time when the work environment was very different. She was justly proud of how she built her career in the wholesale furniture industry, culminating in running an imported rug showroom in the Chicago Merchandise Mart. She was devoted to her stuff. I use a different term, but Bevy didn't swear. Her Christo, her China, her Julie, her tchotchkes. There was a story behind every single piece, and she recited in great detail that story, even if the piece was 50 plus years old. She was devoted to her soaps. Come on, we all know that. She was devoted to her colors, purple, turquoise, and green. They were pervasive, and they made her happy. We all loved her because she was a woman of substance, a rare breed. The anachronism who was devoted to us. She reminded us at a simpler time when the connection between two people who cared about each other was the most valuable thing on earth. We lost a great woman of substance this week. Let's not forget the lesson she taught us, since we know we'll not forget her. As I said at the beginning before I made these remarks, you'll see a similarity. You'll see that she was a woman of deep, deep compassion, deep ideals, and true devotion. Both Earl and Julie and Bruce spoke of those words. It wasn't just in one of their hearts, it was in all their hearts. As I read Bruce's words, I found a reading that I would like to share with you. To me, it talks about her and her life. Birth is a beginning, death a destination, but life is a journey, a going and growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowledge, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, in the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we will remember Bev. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, the beginning of the year when it ends, when we are wearied and need a strength, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember Bev. So as long as we live, she too shall live, for she is now a part of us. Please rise for the memorial prayer. The prayer that I'm about to say, both in Hebrew and English, is a prayer called the El Molei Rachamim. In the Jewish belief, when we die, we believe our soul returns to God. There's no hell or purgatory in Judaism. God takes the soul back. And so we say, El Molei Rachamim Shochem Barmamim, Hamsei Menucha Nachatacha Kamfei Hashkinaim Kudoshim Rim Gazora Harakia Misrim Es Nishmas Beverly Williams Sholach Le'olomo Bial Harachamim Yastarehu B'Sezer Kanofo Le'olomim Vayisror B'Sor HaChaim Es Nishmato Adonai Hu Nachalato V'Yanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkavav V'Namar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Beverly Williams, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. We will now fulfill one of the obligations we have, is that to make sure that we witness Beverly being placed fully into her grave. We have that obligation so we don't leave it to strangers who did not know her. This is probably one of the last acts of kindness we could do for her. The dust returns to the earth as it was, the spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the spirit which we now lay within the earth. The spirit itself cannot die. Receive in mercy, O God, the soul of our departed Beverly. Grant her that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has grasped it, still is our sure inheritance in that everlasting portion. O God, help us to understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is a measure of a love stronger than death. Though we cry in the anguish of our hearts, may we be like children who know that their parent is near, and who cling afraid to the entrusted hand. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to us in your keeping, as we repeat the words, hallowed by generations. Those who wish may join me in the mourner's Kaddish at this time. Earl, we're going to say the mourner's Kaddish. Yiskadav, Yiskadash, Shemei Rabbah. V'yalmalti v'achivusei, v'yamlik machusei. V'chayechon, v'yomechon, v'chayetechal beis Yisrael. Ba'galav, v'zman kariv, v'imru, amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei amaya. Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yisbahar v'yisramam v'yisnasei. V'yisadar v'yisalev v'yisalal Shemei tekudashah barichu. Le'ela mim kol berchasa v'shirasa tush berchasa v'nechamasa. Damiyom b'yama v'imru amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav. Uyaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Blake Ishalach Adonai. Go your way, for God has called you. Go your way, may God be with you. The glory of God receive you. And grant you that everlasting peace that you deserve. Let us all say, amen.
Or I say just leave it for a second.
We're going to ask those who wish. Take some earth.